Like with writing, sometimes you just got to do it and then see what happens. I got Lucky and Dave coming over to finish some of these boxes. It was originally a dual sealed box for 2 L7 square subs, 15-inch. It has 3.7 cubic feet total, and then after displacement it ends up being about 3.5, 3.6. I think we just added some bracing. I'll show you a little bit. And we're just using particle board. This is mostly meant for stuff that's like 1500 watts or less. Should be fine. So we still have a whole bunch left over to do. I'm just running into, it's not like a bottleneck, but it's like it's just about having the materials available. We still have some that we have to do here. And I still have this ton of boxes in the corner. Again, most of it is just me trying to rely on sales. And if you guys are, especially here locally, here in Arizona, even if you're not in Phoenix, if you want to sell stuff, I can give you a really good deal. It's pretty simple. Don't talk to shops because those guys are dicks. And they don't like to share with anybody. It was great. This morning I had a conversation with a colleague. We were talking about how I got to check on these spiders. There's a couple of brown recluses that I killed last night with the torch. See, poison. But if there's 2, that means there's more. But what was it? Conversation with a colleague talking about how it's people in the industry, and specifically it was people who are more famous than me on YouTube, or basically have more followers. Some of the big culprits were like Tony DeMore, Steve Mead. Actually, I have more than Tony DeMore, which was pretty awesome. But Steve Mead, typical predators. I like to call them what they are, which is predators. Big D Wiz, his little sidekick, Ed McMahon, little buddy, what's his name? Hi-Fi Vega. Those guys are idiots and they're predators. They're shills is what they really are. Google the word shill. Look up the definition. That really basically describes what they do, how they do it, and why they get upset when people like me, all I'm doing is simply calling it out, let alone combating it. So there's not really much you could do as far as combating shills. That's the whole point, is they're supposed to basically make it seem like they don't exist, but they do. There was this whole thing, TikTok I was watching the other night, about how Goldman Sachs is artificially propping up the aluminum market because they can manipulate it. And it's funny, what it reminded me of is these bros. There's this whole sort of like culture of bros that are like giving each other self-help books and coaching and all that kind of stuff. And what's ironic about it is that it's all very, very basic stuff that the rest of us and logical society have agreed that that's inappropriate. So it's sort of like this thing where, like in Grand Theft Auto, you can have sex with the prostitute and then kill her and then you get money. What? All the things I ever wanted. But that's the mentality of 10, 11-year-old boys who are introduced to society with no supervision. And so a grown man like me, when I started playing, it was like I was in my 30s, and that's comedic, right? Because I'm like, I would never do that in real life, and I would never even consider that. The problem now is, the past 10 years, these children are now in their late teens, early 20s. They have no skills, and they are complete washout wusses that are just angry and uncoordinated They have no idea on how to be an adult, let alone a man, and do manly things. You know, as a cisgen white guy, you know, in the last couple of years, those guys have been getting a lot of heat, me included, for just being a man. And I'm like, okay, well, you got your wish. Now you got a bunch of mamby-pamby, wishy-washy pieces of shit that have no skills. Guess where they're headed to? Because we had a teenager in yesterday, and we had him working, and I just didn't want to deal with them, so I just said, you know, sweep the floors, and it was like trying to get him to do a better job of it, and he was not happy. And he didn't like that, and he wanted to do cool stuff, and he, you know, was like, he's like, I want to have fun. I want to have fun with life. And I was like, wow, okay. Like, all of life is suffering, and the best thing you can do is manage it. And he goes, well, I don't want to manage it. And I said, well, you bet. And his dad was here, and so I said it right to his face. I said, maybe you should look into dying. all your worries will go away after that. So, but the colleague that I was talking to this morning, I told him about Jordan Peterson, and he's like, who's Jordan Peterson? I was like, oh shit, there's a rabbit hole you need to go down. So that was really interesting. But I wanted to show you a couple things, some projects I'm working on. We got steel for more 4x4 15s, but the metal shop guys are moving later today or later this month, so we may have to wait a little bit. I do want to do a video on reconing the Rockford Fosgate T1 series. I'll do a little bit of a critique on this one. That's right, I did the one on the 15. I keep forgetting about that 15. I need to do show people how to do. I think, did I do it? The biggest difficulty on these is the grinding right here. So, because most people don't have a compressor that's powerful enough to run a air grinder. You can do it with an electric grinder. It's just it's a little more awkward, and there's a lot of inertia and danger associated with an electric grinder like that. But tried to make a couple of videos over the weekend, and I just kept getting interrupted either with phone calls or people here. We had up to 6 people helping out this weekend. Jeez Louise. It's like a big magnet. That's exactly what it is. This is the this is for James, the NT Master. He's a collector, and I'm already looking at that. It's a little off center, which I'm not a fan of course, but we may have to live with it. I got to see if the coil fits on this one. Each motor is good for 400 watts, approximately. These were used on the Sermo Vega VMAX. The steel is from Rockford Fosgate T2. We took down the pole diameter and we extended it. You can see the layers. To make this basically the ultimate LMS motor. Probably at least 2, if not almost 3 times stronger than the traditional LMS. I can't wait to see the specs, the TSPs, to compare, because that's one of the problems with LMS is that if you look at the BL product, on the TC5200, I typically have links to them in the description. TC5200 has a motor force BL product at 1 watt, which is right around 480 Newton meters of force. And as soon as you use even the same motor, and in fact that's why the LMS motor actually has a little bit more clearance. It has a quad stack instead of a triple stack. It actually offers a little bit more BL because the BL drop is so great. It goes from 480, I think, down to 180. And then to compare that, The 3 HP motor has 140 Newton meters of force at 1 watt. So that's a huge difference as far as performance and quickness and tightness and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that we were able to sort of compensate for that using a large magnet array like this, and also keep it really affordable. Otherwise, something like this is like ridiculously expensive, especially to magnetize. And it was really dangerous to work with these because they were all live. Basically, I made them in triple columns, painted them, and then one by one had to stick them on. You've seen the pictures. And then you have to shim them up to make sure they're not going to come in too close of contact with the pole. And then you have to wait for that one to cure and then move on to the next one. And so this is at least 6 weeks of labor and work. I think it's been about 6 months for this, maybe more. And then I finally went back and did reinforcement epoxy, which turned out really nice. I like it, that shiny finish. I also filled in the old holes that were used on the old motor assembly. They don't go all the way through. The bolts actually go through, which I ordered from Toro, which are from Fabori. And we ended up doing, let me show you these. It's an M8 by 1.25, and I think these are 180 millimeter. Look. Yep, 180 millimeter. And then I ended up shaving most of the threads off. What I did was I had to go buy some M8 nuts, and then you put on, I think we only had room to put on one. Typically when I do this, I put on two, just so that it heals the threads a little better. But basically you put the nut on first, and then I secured it in the vise, and then I just used a pneumatic grinding wheel to grind off the excess, and I left a little bit extra so I can flatten it. And then basically what you do is you undo the nut, and it rethreads it as the way a die would. If you guys know tap and die systems, the tap is what makes the hole, the die is what makes the bolt. So but that's the poor man's way of doing that. And then I was able to secure in the hardware. I did have a slight little problem where we ran out of thread, and I ended up, let me see if I can not fuck shit up. I ended up having to use some washers to hold them out a little bit, just because the deeper they went, they ran out of thread. So, because again, to keep them from poking out the top, and again, this only comes in, I think 150 millimeter and then 180 millimeter. 150 was too short, so I went with the 180 and then shortened it. So, but let me see what else I got. Let me turn this down a little bit. I gotta finish these for Curtis. Oh, this is a Type R. I want to do turn that down a little bit. I'm actually going to do a video just on the Type R because it's so popular, and it's actually really easy to I don't want to say easy, what's the word? Yeah, no, it's easy, it just takes a long time. And for some reason my what we call this, stiffy spray, my stiffy spray is ineffective, and so I ended up having to use the old Time, which is where I put down some CA, and then I put the fan on it, and I walk away and I go do something else, and then come back, and hopefully it's hardened by then. The CA that I use is a special slow cure type, which is what you want. It ends up having higher strength, but the downside, and again, I've already done a video on this. I just use Easy Bond out of California, and I use 1500 CPS, which is a little drippy for most guys, but most guys are idiots and they use it in the triple joint, which is not where you're supposed to use it. You're supposed to use epoxy. So, and then the epoxy that I use is our Devil's Jizz, which is heat resistant and impact resistant, which is exactly why people buy black CA. And the only reason why it's black is because it has rubber particles in it, which is supposed to do what this does. In actuality, the rubberized CA doesn't do what this does. And so it's a bit of a misnomer for people to think and believe that the CA does what this does. It's certainly not different. It feels way different. This actually cures to the core, where if you do use like a high CPS, like 4,000 or 5,000 CPS CA, it actually encapsulates, it cures on the outside, and then inside it will stay squishy for forever, a lot of times. And then it also cuts into the spider. It has little crystals on it that grow, and they end up being like little knives, and then because the woofer moves, it goes back and forth across those knives, and then what you end up with is like a perfect circle where the spider detaches from the rest of the joint. And again, most builders, Sundown, whoever, they only build for a year. I think we can do better than that, and that's one of my marketing advantages with you guys, is basically just to build a woofer that lasts 10 to 20 years, and then see what happens. So I did get these in. I'll put links in the description. These are the right thing. These are the real deal. A lot of people were talking about they wanted ribbed cones, and I'm actually glad I didn't import these because somebody had the initiative to go onto Walmart, and these are actually available on Walmart, and they're actually very affordable. This I think was like, I want to say anywhere from 13 to 20 bucks. I can't remember. One of the cool things that it came with it, I ordered actually from 2 different vendors to see if there was any difference, because I think one vendor only had 8s and 10s, and then the other one had 12s, which again, if you guys, it's important to memorize these numbers, or at least learn them. 12 is considered a 300 millimeter, 10 is 250 millimeter, 8 is a 200 millimeter, 15 inch is 385, and then is it? No. Yeah, 15 inches 385, and then 18 inches 460. So, but they also came with a cap, and it's actually pretty stiff. So you can actually put it right on there, and it looks pretty good. Seal it down with some E6000, and you're a champ. Follow the instructions on the E6000. Typically, I give them at least a day, if not 2 days, to cure. And you want to put them in front of like a fan and keep them warm. Temperate. I got this in on trade. It's only $600 shipped. What you do is basically you can either have, if you're I'm not going to ship the box, fuck you, but I can do the subs for $600 shipped on the pair. These are the D8s, so it ends up being a 2 ohm load, which is basically all the JL amps. And if you need a 2 ohm stable amp, I have those as well from Recoil, and they're really affordable and they're really powerful. Yeah, these are the TW3 12D8. And I posted them on Facebook and Instagram. Again, only $600 for the pair, shipped to any state in the lower 48. If you're here in Phoenix, you can come by and pick up the whole thing for $600. So it's all yours. This is for Juno in San Diego, I think he is, or is it? No, he's in Oceanside, and this is a 18-inch that I had a lot of trouble with. He wanted a very specific spider pack, and it took me a little while to get it, and I'm glad I'm finally done with that. Refresher, Chris, my vet tech friend, came by and he's like, hey, did you ever sell those PPI flat piston subs? I was like, no, they don't work. And he's like, they do too work. And I was like, I don't think so. And so he was here, and I tested them for him right in his face, and he's like, oh, they don't work. And I go, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. So, but they are really good for, what do you call it? For display. Like if you want to display them, especially like if you have a car audio place, or you just want to make them look cool, or even if you just want to use them as passive radiators, that's fine. They're only $50 each. Shipped. I'll do the pair for $100 shipped, and you can have them. I also have this HD 10K. If anyone wants to buy that, $50 shipped for that. I also have a 3K. I'll throw in for $20. Let me see what else. Oh, I got the Rockford Fosgate tape deck, so you can listen to Tony Robbins and Young MC. This one is only $100 shipped. I had it in my truck. And there's the cool thing about these back then was that They actually have a DIN cable that connects with a CD changer. And what I did was I hot rodded it. It shows in the instructions on how to turn it into an auxiliary input. It just uses a trigger, and I had mine on a switch, and then it switches it over and looks for the input on the DIN cable, and you can use it as an auxiliary input. And of course, what you can then do is use a Bluetooth module, so then you can basically retrofit this with Bluetooth. So I watched a talk the other day, TikTok, and somebody had done that with an old school Alpine. They had gone in there, and it basically the same thing. You can use that source switcher, like switch to CD or tape or FM or AM or whatever it is. And if you know where that is, sometimes it's a logic switch, but sometimes it was an old physical switch. And you can go in there and just add that to the input rather than, it being a CD changer or whatever. So, we got these are the new HardTimes audiophile. That's what I'm going to market them as. And they come in a couple different flavors. They are definitely not repurposed dual woofers like Connor Comfaci got mad. He's like, these are American bass speakers. I'm like, shut the fuck up. They do not say American bass on them. I removed that badge so you couldn't see it. So again, I talked about these. We only had one guy take advantage of that deal that I gave, which was a smoking deal. I'm not going to offer it anymore. Basically you add 90 cc's of the devil's jizz to the dust cap. And then what ends up happening is it has an FS around 30 hertz. The ones that I measured with the FS was around 27. The QTS, of course, was a little high at 0.8. And then the VAS was like at 2.6, which of course is a little large. And that's because the suspension then becomes floppy and the magnet can't really keep up. But for home theater, like home audio, these are on par and they do really, really well. They're probably best used in like a sealed box, because with the sealed box, you can just add a little bit of bass, a little bit of EQ, and then we pair them up actually with the dual amp, because these are single 4 ohm, and then you just bridge it. And I think they rated these at like 175, but they're on par with a lot of other woofers that are rated for double that, about 300 watts. And so we've paired them up with this amp, which is 300 watts RMS, has bass boost and crossover, and they sound great. So I'm actually going to pick up, oh, that's right, I got to drive the truck to Recoil today to pick up some goodies and basically get more of these boxes that they have. These are flat pack boxes that they imported from the China. Larry Van Sickle used to run the brand called Fierce Audio that you saw probably in Best Buy. Fierce Audio. That was all Larry, and that was sort of residuals from his work with Rockford when he sold his half of Lightning to Rockford Corporation. And at the time, Rockford was getting into Best Buy, and people network, and they're like, we would love somebody to do boxes. And of course, Larry had sold Lightning Audio, so he's like, I can do your boxes. And he did boxes and I think accessories and some other stuff. But Larry, even before Lightning Audio, he had already been doing accessories for, I think for Rockford and a couple other brands, JL Audio and some other stuff. So, but let me see. Got these in. These were really nice. These are Polk Audio marine certified speakers. They have a polycone, poly dust cap, and then a rubber surround. They're good for about 350 watts RMS. They're 4 ohm single voice coil. And I got them without the front gaskets on them, and I was like, well, this is perfect because it's a stamped steel frame. So I just put the JL Audio ones on there. I think I've showed these to you guys. I have these available. They're only $15 each shipped. So yeah, the marking, so from the tooling. 10W0, which is fine because JL abandoned that tooling a long time ago, and they get all their stuff from China now. So I love doing that because they can't say shit. They abandon it, and just like when you're born into the hospital calls you a foundling, and then they create a birth certificate, and then they leverage you and make money out of you, which is how our society is geared. Slave. Everyone's a slave. I think that was, let me see. Oh, I'm going to also do a video on the American Bass XR. This is actually a really great budget gem. It's good for 1500 watts RMS. It's actually better than something like Sundown SA V2, and it's like 30% less, and so it's better performing, costs less, and you can also debadge this. This I'm going to have Sherry take off the back badge, take off the side terminal, and then there's still 2 good terminals that you can use for typical spider, sewn spider positioning, and take care of that. I think that was it. Oh, this is the other Type R, and a bunch of other projects going on, but yeah, there's an SA. I can that way. Yeah, this is an SAV2. I actually don't even want to put it together so that I can just show you and also keep it for the library. It's not that it's a turd. It's just that that weird coil size allows, or at least for a while anyway, it allowed for Sundown to make more money for recones because nobody had that available. Oh, that's what I wanted to show you. Sorry, I don't mean to turn around so quickly. I know that makes you sick. Let's see. Hang on for a sec. So this is what I wanted to show you, which was, yeah, the only reason why Sundown chose 2 3/4 voice coil was because they were able to. It's number one. It's their most popular seller, which is the SA series, and they were able to control recones at least for a while until somebody like either me, which again I just have my investments pushed elsewhere. I don't have it in coils right now, which is fine. I let somebody like George at Ultra Audio / Lord of Bass do the heavy lifting on that, and he's like, oh sure. And so anyways, he launched, this is from, where is it at? Lord of Bass, and this is the 3.3 inch audio pipe BDC 15 coil that again that was controlled by Nippon America, which is audio pipe. They were not releasing that. They were only releasing recone kits, again, so they can make more money. And they have that in this is the Dual 4, this is the Dual 2. And then Lord of Bass also came out with some clamp rings, which I'm actually glad that he came out with these because I actually don't like selling parts. I don't think George charges enough for parts like these, but he gets them made in China. The ones I get are made in America, so they cost me a little bit more, but these probably cost like 50 cents for him. And so even to sell at $5, personally, I think they're worth more than that, but you know, whatever, that's his business. But this is the 8.26, and then there's another one. Oh, come on. 8.18. So what I would do is order, like me personally, I'll order 10 of each type, and then I just have them in the inventory. For somebody that is just getting started, what you want to do is have just like 2 or 3. And what it does is, and what you want to do is write like sample on there with a silver Sharpie, and you just keep it as a modeling device so that when you're ready to order, you know exactly what you're going to get and exactly how to use it because you have a sample there to work with. So there was, let me look at some of these. So yeah, I'm downloading, I'm tired of Windows. We got a bunch of those PCs from Tyler Dove with Windows 10 on them. They are slow as molasses and it's just garbage. And so I'm like, I don't like getting into any of the Linux boxes. I've done that before. The only probably downside of those is that they're constantly updating. I wanted somebody else that had done more beta work with their OS. And basically, I really like the way that Chrome and Google do indexing, especially on a hard drive, because I have thousands and thousands, probably millions of photographs for all kinds of stereo stuff, and I would love to add meta tags to them so that I can organize them and then eventually upload them to some sort of cloud our website so that you guys can access them and sort of see not only the work that I've done, but just to show the iterations of the possibilities and the combinations. So again, eventually we'll have a full website where it'll be all fancy pants and all that stuff. I don't even want to get into that because it's so far out. Locally, I've been doing the UNI site. I've been stuck in the editor. Mostly we want to make this about blackjack audio. One of the problems I found with the UNI site, which number one, it was affordable. It was only $150, and it's basically like a Wix site. But the problem that I have is that they make it too picturey. I don't want to make it picturey. I want to make it more text-based, more HTML, like an old FTP site. And they're hard to reach. I think they're based out of, well, their customer support's based out of South America, so you got to get on voice over IP to talk to them, and it's annoying. And I've had nothing but disdain for it, but I've already paid for it, and so I might as well make the best of it. And so we'll try to make the best of it. These guys are based on PayPal, and I think they may have been an offshoot of the PayPal group in order to bring in more customers to PayPal. And I technically I do use PayPal, but I don't like to, just because it's unsafe for me as a seller. And also, I don't like a lot of their policies. They're just really, how do I say this? BlackRocky, right? Vanguard BlackRocky, where it's basically about just pimping everyone and exploiting them, just like what I was talking about earlier about with the bros. Oh, that was the other one, was how the bros watch a TV program like Vikings, which is, the first 3 seasons are great, by the way. I don't recommend anything after that, but the first 3 seasons are pretty good. But it's the Vikings television show, and that's one thing nobody expects is other humans to show up and just rape and murder and conquer everything. And you get people like Trump that are doing this. They're like, oh, like you can kill all the black people you want or all the Jews you want, and there's, you get all their money at the end. Like, that's a great idea. But that's where that mentality leads to, is that sort of, don't get mad. Somebody already came up with it, which is don't get mad when the leopard eats your face off. When you elect these kind of people and you support this kind of behavior, it's going to come back and eat your face and bite you. And don't get mad when you do that. There was another one I want to do. I have these on order. Let's see if it'll come up. There we go. The S25 series, somebody had asked me about this, and the more that I look at it, the more I can see the potential for rebadging. They're already out of the D2s, but they do have the D4s. See if you go like that, it says sold out. You have the D4s. They are $90 each. I do recommend the financing, which goes through your credit card. Basically, it divides it, Affirm. Basically divides it into, I think, 4 payments, and it's 0% financing for is it weeks? 4 weeks? Yeah, for basically a month. And so you pay whatever. You divide it up in 4. I just ordered 4 for now because I have a box that has it's for 4 12s, and you don't want to put something too wussy in there. But you also don't want to put something too strong. Otherwise, you run into a problem like what Hayden ran into, which was that if you make it too beefy, the price point that you have to, it's worth that. Like, it's like the price point that he was probably trying to reach was about $2,000, maybe $3,000, and it's worth that. The problem is finding a customer that is willing to spend that is very difficult. Even in a metropolitan area like Phoenix, which is probably 10 million people, it gets really narrow really quick. And so that's why I'm a big fan of, and this is also true in sales, that most of your sales actually come from, to use a baseball term, singles. If you can just get on base, and if you can get enough people that just get on base, you can win games. You don't have to hit home runs. You don't have to do a grand slam. You don't have to do any of that shit. If you can just get on base, it forces everyone to basically score as a team. And so that's what I'm a big fan of. And that's also why I like servicing poor people, people that don't have a lot of money. There's a lot of them, And do I deal with a lot of trashy people? Sometimes, yes, that's part of the gig. But you'll find that there are plenty of trashy people with lots of money as well. And they're the ones that are like, oh, you know, I can bury this body in the desert and just steal their life, and I can totally get away with it. Yep, you sure can. Do I recommend that? Fuck no, I don't recommend that. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with you? But I really like this one because it's reminiscent of the version 1, or what do they call it? Rev 1, Rev 2 of the Sundown SA. I want to see if it has a 2.5 or if it's a 2 5/8 voice coil. Sundown used a 2.5-inch voice coil, while the Scar DDX, which is its parody, uses 2 5/8, which is, it's not a big deal. It's just that I prefer the 2.5, just because it costs a little bit less, and it's also not so finicky about the difference between D2 and D4. Whereas I've shown you in the Alpine Type R, and who else? Somebody else. There's a bunch of, Rockford Fosgate, the P3. They all use 2 5/8, and I have some of those on order from China, and I'm waiting for those to come in, and those are going to help me move a lot of those pallets and pallets and pallets of P3s that I have. So, but I think, let me see if that's it. So anyways, for this one, basically I'm just going to replace the gasket, which has the tooling marks on it. I just replace it with the gasket that I have here, and then I can replace, put a cap. I don't know if I'd wipe the badge. That probably comes off with some acetone pretty easy. And then what you want to do is just add a larger either carbon fiber or one of the other glass fiber dust caps that I have. The back has no badging on it that I could see. It might, it has a sticker. Okay, so that's not too bad. It's when it has the etching in it that kills it for me, because I'm like, fuck, there's no way I can hide the badge on this one. But this one looks like it should be pretty easy. So maybe it'll be a winner. And of course, I like to open up a lot of these secrets to you guys. Oops, I don't want to order more. Because number one, that gives, again, this is about market advantage. I don't like to play fair, but I like to create a more fair environment at the same time. Does that make sense? So basically, one of my goals is basically to take out bullies and bros, guys that are jackasses that abuse the system, and if I can pave the way to create a more level playing field for everyone, that seems like a really good thing to me. And at the same time, I can provide for my family. Yeah, you betcha. That's exactly what I want to do. That's a win-win all around. So like I tell a lot of people here in Phoenix, when they're leaving, I tell them, hey, don't tell anybody about Robot. Don't tell anybody. And they're like, some people are puzzled. Some people get it right away. And the idea is, there's a couple things, which is, number one, they're going to tell people, right? Just like in Fight Club. First rule of Fight Club, don't talk about Fight Club. But I tell them, don't tell anybody about it. And I said, just find a client. Find somebody that wants to do a system. And I said, especially if you can do the install, then you'll make even more money. And basically what you want to do is find a client, find out what their budget is. Let's say they want to spend $500. And so I tell them, I said, look, $100 is for you for the install. If they want to do 500 install, that's fine. 600 install, whatever it is. $100 for you for the install. And then basically what I do is I try to get them another $100 on the equipment. So if the system is going to $500 budget installed, so 100 of theirs, that brings the budget down to 400. So then I try to get them a full system that's wiring kit, amp, subs, whatever they want, for $300, and which is actually not that hard. And there's still margins in there for Robot, which is great. And then what I now do is that person is now a dealer, for lack of a better term, an independent consultant. And they can work from home and they can do installs on the weekend. And that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. That's the whole thing about the, I talked about the SL 1789s. Those have been selling pretty great. In fact, I got to go down there and pick up some more because we are out of them. I sold the last 2 this morning that I had. So the whole idea, though, that hopefully you've been picking up on is not about just trashing hotheads and idiots on the internet. That is everybody wants dessert every once in a while. And that is my dessert, because I get to actually point out some of the shitty things that these bros, this macho culture, this toxic piece of shit culture that has since really grown in leaps and bounds since Trump became president. Because it's like, oh, they just drop all the rules, and it's like, oh yeah, all the savages come out, and these guys are come out and they're savages because they're like, oh yeah, you can just like kill the husband and then like take his wife and his daughter, and you can choose to either fuck them or eat them or both, and live a whole great life and be a Christian. Yep, and that's what they do. And so if I can help stop that behavior, or at least curb it until I pass the torch. Meaning pass away or pass the burden that is robot onto somebody else or a team of somebody else's. But if you noticed, back to my conversation with my colleague this morning, which was, if you noticed, Tony DeMore and Steve Mead haven't launched any new products. Number one, because the market is full of products. The only thing you can do now is make it look prettier and cheaper. That's it. And that's what Recoil is doing. And that's why I've aligned myself with Recoil, one of the reasons. So the other thing is that the crunch is coming, the recession is coming, and so you need to prepare. And so typically it's going to divide the super poor people, which I'm hoping that I can be on the upside of that. I'm not quite a rich person. I'm definitely not a rich person. But I can deal in luxury items. So I will service the rich people. And the rich people will even be poor. And so then that's when all of a sudden I become a hero, because buying a 13W7 for $1,800, you kind of go, I don't need that, right? Like, you don't need a $1,200 porn star experience when a $200 Backpage chick will do just fine. The whole point is to get your load out. And again, I've solved that problem with a $15 Cum Gobbler 9000, which again I recommend to you guys, and I've been giving away as a gift. So if you're a good friend of mine and you get one of those in the mail, that is from me. So if you're not a good friend, then you won't get one from me in the mail. You can buy your own. But these are the new HardTimes audiophile series. This is the black glass fiber, yellow glass fiber. We have the copper and the blue. That's the blue. And then we also have the Cerwin Vega version. So CV OEM, right? Because if you've ever bought stuff from CVM